I'm ready to do my part, so I'm going to click here to learn more. Here on Future Please, a heinous trip with Warp 5. My name is Joseph.
And I also fantasize about stealing back all the things that have been stolen from me. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek Enterprise did we watch this week?
It's not Star Trek Enterprise yet.
On this version, they've already put Star Trek Enterprise into the credits, so I'm calling it.
Maybe on your version. My version's a little different. We're moving into Season 3, Episode 2, Anomaly. This first aired September 17th, 2003, written by Mike Sussman, who at this point's an executive producer, right?
I believe so.
Interestingly absent is Phyllis Strong, who I think this is the first time I've ever seen Sussman named without Strong being involved somehow. And directed by David Stryden, what else? Oh, this guy's got a lot of Enterprise. Desert Crossing, Night in Sick Bay, Vanishing Point. This guy's got all the turds.
Well, apparently it wasn't him. It wasn't his fault.
So we are 2 episodes now into the new Star Trek. When's the last time we did we did episode 1 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago by our reckoning as we record here.
3/23/23 for us over here. And new format, new lights, new direction, new tone, all in full effect.
When I first watched the show, I was watching season 3, as I've mentioned many times before. And I remember watching episode 1 and I'm like, okay, interesting. And then I watch this and be like, oh, wow, this show's really good. This is really interesting. It's gripping. It's tense. There's good action. There's good music. There's some inventive camera and lighting going on. I had no idea Star Trek Enterprise was so good. I am so glad that this has been recommended to me.
Some bad special effects, but they're zany, so they're fun.
Yeah, period appropriate special effects.
But again, it's zany stuff. I can get behind it, right?
Absolutely. And it's a kind of incredible. This essentially the same group of people are making this show that we're making the absolute dog shit that we were subjected to during season 2 that we just recently got done complaining about for like an hour and 15 minutes.
True. So we're going to open in this one. Well, let's see. Is there any meta stuff to really discuss here?
I mean, what are your overall thoughts on this direction so far? Are you feeling this gritty reboot era? This is a nice taste of what's to come.
Jury's still out.
Really? Interesting.
I think that the absence of a little doo-doo-doo-doo-doo with a funny look at each other and, T'Pol raises an eyebrow and cut to credits, like that era of whimsical silliness being gone isn't a bad thing. I still feel like I'm carrying some baggage in regards to Archer.
Yeah, if suddenly having to take him as the gritty, realistic military hero after we've watched him be a petulant child is like, whoa, okay. I mean, and it's a new look, but it's a good look.
And is there really a way to transition into that we haven't already seen? The guy is wearing literally the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I think that's enough to cut the shit. I don't think he's a great captain, and I think he's got some bad leadership style in this, but I think it makes sense because he's someone with a gun to his head who is being forced into a role that he didn't necessarily sign up for.
Yeah, he's not a military leader by nature.
Not even a military leader, but again, somebody who has been not even tasked. I mean, he volunteered to go out and save the world on what could ultimately be a fluke.
Mm-hmm. Something Trip gives voice to, actually, quite directly.
So, some of these things where he's basically bullying people, get the engines up. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care about you or your not comfort, but like I don't care about your struggle. Give me what I want. Especially when it comes to T'Pol in this episode, I feel like he is kind of like a brute dick. And I feel like T'Pol comes off like a battered wife in this big time.
Yeah, he pushes her around for essentially no reason. Like, he's just angry at her. She doesn't do anything wrong. She's actually giving some relatively reasonable advice.
And again, she's supposed to be safe and sound back on Vulcan, and she resigned her commission to be there. So maybe there'll be an episode down the road where he has like this. I don't know who his confidant at this point is. Maybe Phlox, maybe Trip, but with Trip going off the rails, it's going to be very interesting to see now that you have a cohesive writing force, and that's the real thing to appreciate here is that based on what you've said and what some of the other people have inclinated to, like the writing gets good, and part of good writing is a cohesive story where the previous episode matters, and a unified vision in what the series is supposed to be. I'll be interested in who is his confidant going to be, and what steam does he start blowing off in private? What are his own doubts? If he's going to kind of have a moment where he realizes he's needlessly pushing his people too hard and, yelling at T'Pol to get more out of the sensor readings than are actually there is productive. But T'Pol specifically, and in this especially, I'm still not feeling that haircut. Her fucking disco jumpsuit looks like trash. And she went from being pretty up there boss bitch at the end of season 2 to this meek, almost stammering, walking on eggshells, and generally seeming fearful first officer. And I don't dig that. Beyond that, solid stuff. And maybe, again, that's just stuff they're going to flesh out, and these are intentional dynamics we have in play.
The opener is Porthos doing something that we have never before seen him do on screen. Somehow.
Not true.
Oh, did it happen before and I don't remember?
Porthos has a class ability to bark at the problem.
Oh, that's right. He barked at Silic because Silic was going to give him cheese. So he'd shit all over Archer's quarters while he's unconscious. I do forget that. But yeah, he only seems to bark at space danger. And I mean, what a dog, right? If you're going to have a dog as a spacefaring person, as a captain of a starship, getting a dog genetically bred to bark when there's space danger seems like an extraordinarily strong investment.
All right, here's what I want you to do right now, Joe. I want you to compare and contrast Porthos to early 3 seasons Deanna Troi.
Who is more useful? Who can provide more immediate aid?
Because I'm seeing the same skill set.
Bark and danger. I don't know.
I'm detecting a problem.
1989 Marina Sirtis has benefits that Porthos, as good a boy as he is, cannot possibly match. But he barks because there's space danger. And we do quite quickly see what that space danger is, which is everything on the ship starts blowing up, or plates fly into the air because there's a string that they've pulled to pull all of the plates up for the pan overshot. There is a cup of coffee on Archer's desk that is suspended in midair. And
there's the twisted warping hallway from Voyager.
Yes, from Twisted. Yeah.
Where there's like a big like bullfrog neck bump going up in the middle of the corridor, shooting down, just throwing crewmen left and right.
Yeah, a couple stunt doubles get yeeted.
Just getting fucking launched.
And they get
that cup of coffee.
Yeah, the PS2 graphic just kind of hangs out in the frame.
When we get to the end of this episode, we didn't do it for episode 1. Episode 2, we have to include our Starfleet SOP addendums. This cup of coffee is going to be heavily featured.
So the power goes out. They fall out of warp. The warp core went nuts. So Trip had to shut it down. And they get the emergency power back online, and they have to start like, okay, what happened? Everything's off. Nothing works. We're all fucked right now. And then Travis detects a ship nearby, which they're only able to limp towards at quarter impulse power, evidently. When they arrive there, they decide to board it because there's no life signs, there's no atmosphere, there's signs of a struggle. So they're going to go in and investigate to see what occurred, so that maybe helps shed light on their own situation. And Peter, that's where we get to a scene straight out of Starship Troopers, the suit up scene as they get into their EV suits. Do you know why I thought of Starship Troopers?
I have no idea, Joe, because quite frankly, this entire scene is a blur to me. All I remember is the shuttle pod docking and me being right as fuck. That's literally all I saw.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you were even blinded by the fact that Colonel Mackenzie is our first example of a 2000s hottie. Because we've had a lot of 90s hottie. We've talked of the 90s hottie. The 90s hottie has had their day, and I think this is a firm, crossover into the 2000s hottie.
CrossFit, very CrossFit.
Very, very like lean, definitely the look of the era. And as God is my witness, I cannot believe they shot this scene with her without a bra on in HD. You can see her titties as clear as day. They're right
I,
there.
I didn't even notice because in that scene, uh, so we cut to, I don't know, the decontamination room, whatever. They're suiting up. How many spacesuits were we at previously? Two?
Two, and they apparently got a third because of a movie. So there was a movie
That's
that
right. Those three.
so they had three in this episode, and the third one apparently was from the movie The Core, which was a Paramount movie from 2003. And so they retrofitted that suit from that movie into a third suit for their show.
I thought that the Mako. What does Mako stand for?
Hold on. You know what? Why
You're a
guess when I
terrible
can
nerd
click
if
on
you
this
don't know
link?
what the acronym.
Military Assault Command Operations.
Not like Shinra soldiers.
They kind of are.
Yeah.
They're sort of like generically goonish.
It's interesting seeing who they picked to play this. The Mako selection, instead of like getting some real rowdy jarhead steroid dudes, they've got like a very attractive white bread America with one or two minorities sprinkled in.
Yeah, everyone's fit. Everyone is
Everyone's
muscular.
fit, but everyone looks very LA actor fit and not like I crawl around
Marine
in the
fit.
mud
Yeah.
and eat things that I would not have wanted to at the beginning of the day. So the lady getting so my impression was that Mako soldiers had different EV suits.
No, I imagine they probably use Starfleet suits, right? Like the Magos are Earth's military. They're not spacefaring people. You know, like that's why they're talking. Like, if any of you actually have a lot of experience firing in zero G, right? And for the most part, they don't because they're from Earth.
I wanted to talk about Mako for a second. I was thinking about them as the holdover of the old Earth, and even like the same for like the wet navies and stuff that Reed's family used to serve in, and resentment that they might have for Starfleet or Starfleet by incorporating them without directly absorbing them. And I think you can look at the space truckers, the Earth Cargo Authority, and it's going to be the same story, right? You want to go into military service, you want to fuck shit up, you want to get into some cool action battles or whatever, or you have a long military line of tradition, or that's what you want to do. You got two options. You can go into Earth, which has now become a quickly post scarcity utopia, or instead you join Starfleet and go into their pussy security corps, but you're going to see some cool shit. You're going to do some cool shit. And I think it makes sense that you see that get phased out, or maybe the wet navies and that stuff get phased out along with the Earth Cargo Authority, because all those people are better rewarded by going into Starfleet.
Do you believe me if I told you that you just described the motivations of the villain from Star Trek Beyond, the third JJ verse movie? He's literally a Mako that got turned into a Starfleet officer and didn't like it. Like, I
That's
mean, like, it's a great plot eye point, and that's why that movie's actually rad as fuck, because that's the plot. You just said it. All of these dudes who used to be pre-Earth Starfleet guys, and specifically Makos, that got turned into Starfleet officers after the Makos got disbanded, but they're still military officers, and then they got caught up in some space shenanigans and did some real, like, fascist shit. Like, great plot, and that's why I'm a big defender of that film, because that
well,
is a good idea.
that's a situation where someone getting turned against their will. I think, we talked before, like, who wants to go work on a space truck
Right.
when instead you can go work on, an NX Star Cruiser and do clean stuff and eat, prime rib and whatever the hell else Cook is whipping up there. So anyways, there they are. They're in the suit up room. You got the girl, and this is the same lady who beat the fuck out of the dirty miner.
Yeah, with the
Colin,
tonfa.
yeah, whipped the shit out of him.
We're just right in
And
the balls. Like, just no mercy.
yeah, and they're all getting dressed together. It's her and two other Makos, I want to say, and then it's
Correct.
what, Archer, Mayweather. No, Mayweather wasn't in a suit.
Mayweather was on the mission as the pilot, but
Pilot,
he didn't
yeah,
go in. I believe it's the Makos and Archer and Reed.
Reed, yeah. The
And
head of the Makos, does he pop up in this episode?
no, he does
What's his
not.
name?
Major Hayes. So yeah, I mean, it is a bit astonishing to me that somehow the censors did not catch that Corporal Mackenzie was braless and her titties were on full display in HD for the entirety of the scene, and the camera was centered on it several different times for that very specific reason. Guess maybe people didn't have HD TVs yet, so they just
I missed
didn't
it too,
notice.
man. I was too distracted by the wetsuits underneath the spacesuits. I don't know.
But I would just I just was just astonished at the level of shamelessness that was occurring. It was very Starship Troopers esque, like the shower scene. We're just like, we're gonna throw titties in this movie somehow. So here it is. That's what it felt like.
They fly over in the shuttle pod, which I still am kind of stank that they didn't get new shuttle pods while they were refitting the Enterprise, something a little bit more militant, maybe it's for this darker tone. They fly over.
Get a
The
great shot as they enter. Because what they do is, as they come into the ship, to give that sense that it's weightless and they're just in, walking along in the corridors of the ship, not necessarily tethered to a single orientation, the camera rotates around, and they've got the relatively primitive effects of things floating in the air while they rotate the camera. And it gives a really cool and creepy effect. And the music in this episode, and he kind of starts to pick up here, is also very different, very dark, very moody. There's even some like synth drums and synth guitar in a couple spots. I don't know if you noticed.
mm,
It sets the tone, starkly different fashion.
how do you feel now that we've watched First Flight and we've really established the Mary Sue Bible of Jonathan Archer's origin story?
Mm-hmm.
These situations where the engine is down and priority one is getting the engine back up, and Archer is never in engineering helping.
Yeah, as the man who's apparently obsessed with his father's engine, he doesn't seem to lend a hand there very much, does he?
As the man who only after Action Grandpa said the engine sucks, and he went home that night and within 3 hours found the fatal flaw of the intermix chamber of the Warp 5 engine, and corrected the formula and then came back to work. Clearly, he's a great engineer, right
Yeah.
alongside Trip. Like, I don't know. I feel like First Flight really introduced a lot of shit I wish I didn't know. And it's just
You
more
overloaded him. You
it's
made Archer too competent.
it's well, and his competency just makes him again a worse captain. Like, you should be in there helping fix this goddamn thing. Like, again, they're just all over the place on what Archer's supposed to be. At this point in season 3, he is supposed to be Jack Bauer, who is
Yes,
willing to bust some fucking heads.
he's ready to waterboard a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna do it. They go to the derelict ship. They do a good job of kind of doing their best aliens, kind of vibe in there. But all they find is bodies. They download their computer. They bounce back and take what they got downloaded from their computer and start analyzing it. And they're like, well, maybe we should wait here just to repair. And Archer's like, nah, these guys got attacked like 2 days ago. So whatever preyed on them is probably in the area. So we just need to like get away from all the things we possibly can at whatever speed is possible so that we can remain unmolested. And that is when he goes down to engineering and talks to Trip about what's happened to the warp core. Why can't we go to warp? This is like probably some of my favorite techno babble I've heard in quite some time. This is extremely well written and well delivered by Colin Trenier as well, in a fashion that makes me believe Trip is doing this, because the techno babble actually talks about warp fields and warp drive as extraordinarily difficult physics equations, which it should be.
Sure. The shout out to the Cochrane theory.
The Cochrane equation, which it suggests like there is a specific formula that Cochrane figured out that allows for the formation of a stable warp field by understanding the relationship between subspace particles in order to bend them to create the warp bubble. It seems to be the suggestion to create that stable field. Like, that constant has to be in place because that's how you do all of the math that creates all of the field around the ship.
It's a
And
well conveyed feeling of frustration, and from Trip's angle, he is still sleep deprived. He's still carrying the baggage of his family being dead and being angry about it. And now here they are getting swatted about by these space anomalies, and the most basic thing the ship is supposed to be able to do, which is push them along at warp speed, he is not able to achieve. And every time he tries to compensate for things, some other monkey wrench gets thrown into the situation. So
and I like that they portray Trip as extremely smart, as he's very good at his job, and he is so good he's actually attempting to adjust for the fact that the laws of physics don't apply on the fly successfully, and he's getting close. Like, I'm so good, despite the fact that this fundamental theory is what makes warp field isn't working. I'm tweaking all of the numbers here just enough to try and get it to work.
luckily for Trip, all that pent up frustration will have an opportunity to vent itself later on in the episode. I could have gone for some conversation somewhere in here that maybe Archer regretted offhandedly dismissing all of the warnings that Suval gave him.
Some reflection on, like, okay, maybe this part of space is exactly as dangerous as the Vulcans were trying to tell me.
Trip, I don't know if I mentioned it to you or not, but the Vulcans told me that this part of space, in addition to being community theater Event Horizon, also does zany things to space. Earlier in the episode, when they show the anomalies initially popping off, I like that Anomaly isn't just like a big thing that hits the ship at once. It's like you're laying on a slip and slide and being dragged down a road, and you feel each rock as it like starts on your back and then it goes down your back and hits your butt and your leg, like as the dishes are flying off the table, as bubbles are ripping down the deck. And we'll find an example later on in this episode, like organics are at danger from these anomalies as well. So this is a nice follow-up to episode 1, where all the stuff in the hull I'm sorry, the cargo hold was up against the wall. And the concerns that Archer had earlier on that there's more dangers here than just the anomalies will soon come true.
One last shot of your coffee mug where he comes back into his office and his coffee mug and the coffee is still suspended in midair. And
Dude,
I did really like the idea that he just got super frustrated by the fact this is happening and just grabs his fucking coffee mug and puts it back on his desk and the coffee is still there.
this guy's a fucking animal. You know the gravity's going to come back.
Right.
You know that coffee's going to come down and go fucking everywhere. You've got a chance right now just to take a waste bucket and just scoop all that shit in and save you or some poor steward like 20 minutes of annoying cleanup. Who
No.
does this?
Jonathan Archer, when he's frustrated, like, fuck it. I'm gonna take my coffee cup back. This coffee can go fuck itself. Like, this is bullshit. This is bullshit that there's coffee suspended in midair in my fucking office.
Just
What the fuck is wrong with space? Why is space asshole? That is the moment he is going through.
Speaking of some space assholes, lo and behold, whoever attacked the dead lizard people of that other ship come cruising around looking for some trouble.
This is every bad gunfight has come back for vengeance in the form of an amazing gunfight. These guys beam onto the ship to do a pirate raid. They are some gnarly Mad Max looking motherfuckers, and they are gunning down Enterprise crew members left and right and stealing their shit like they took a wrong turn into the wrong neighborhood.
Now, we've just had this fairly recently in Concerning Flight. But rest assured, there is no John Rhys Davies here.
No. No.
These space pirates, they're serious business. They're beaming over. This is now the third race we have seen, not counting the Vulcans, who we assume have it, but third race. Klingons have transporters. These dudes got transporters. There might have been one or two other ones in there. The Suliban have transporters too, at least.
Yeah.
They got a real good guy working the transporter console who is very good at putting all the attack parties in within melee range. So they're getting some quick X attacks in.
Yes, they are. They're getting that they are mostly trying to hit the non-lethal button. They're not being gentle, but they're not murdering everyone.
Mixed messages here. Because this is going to become the big moral centerpiece of this episode. Let's jump ahead a minute here. Poor crewman Fuller doesn't make it out of this one alive.
No,
right?
Very, very first actual casualty.
And that is this is really what they were saving it for, huh?
I mean, it certainly sets a tone. Like, this is not a safe part of space. You're just gonna randomly lose a guy. Like, these dudes showed up and they weren't even really trying to kill you that hard. They're not murderers. They just don't care.
Thieves. I guess I don't blame this episode for having I don't blame this episode for having a death. I blame the producers for picking this episode to be the first death. All the zany, high-risk shit that they have gone through up to this point, including fighting the goddamn Borg.
Yeah.
And the first person to die on Enterprise is during a mugging. Someone dying, that's fine. So
it
someone
resets
does
your expectations, though. Like, it does reset your expectations. Like, okay, we're going in a different direction now. Like, there's going to be casualties. There's going to be a cost to things, and they certainly build on that in this episode. So I'll grant that. And man, like, everything with Trip deciding to go animal mode with a space pipe.
Yeah, let's flash back to Trip's been on edge. Trip needs to blow off steam. These dudes, they're beaming in. They are going for the old rifle across the back of the neck thing. Sometimes a couple people are getting shot. Again, I always have to wonder, does this alien species have stun and kill, and they're just being real cool and using stun? Which maybe that's something that the captive later on could have mentioned, was like, we try not to kill because when we do kill, people get mad and they look for more trouble, and that's not good for business.
Or
That
simply that they've got primitive disruptors and sometimes they kill you and sometimes they don't. Then it's just like, where'd you get shot? You get shot in the shoulder, you're all right. You get shot in the heart,
these guys
sorry.
have been stealing from everybody. I'd think they'd have a nice assortment of events. Did you read in Memory Alpha where they said that the pirate rifles were Type 3 phasers from First Contact that they repainted?
Yes, and they even look like it too. They
Old
really do.
dildo guns. And as they knock these guys out, they go up to cargo, they go up to important stuff, and they're putting like homing beacon transporter things that are like beaming them out.
Mm-hmm.
They go into the hole from Catwalk that the space fascists were stealing the warp juice out of. That's what, plasma?
It is warp antimatter. This is the gasoline.
Go juice.
They steal it all. And they're trying to steal stuff in engineering, but Trip ain't having it. And he's on top of the warp core, trying to avoid them. And he sees two extremely well armed alien intruders below him. He does not have a gun, but
He doesn't need a
fortunately,
gun.
one of his subordinates has left him a more superior weapon of a more civilized age,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a space pipe. And he picks up a space pipe.
It was actually a lightsaber. But it being Trip, he knew the most effective use of that lightsaber was to not turn it on.
Yeah, don't turn it
Just to
on.
bust a motherfucker over the head with it.
He drops down and he puts a fucking hit on this guy with this space pipe that killed everyone ever related to him. He just steals his soul right out of his fucking body.
I swear to God, when I was watching, when he hits him the first time with that pipe, it almost looks like there's a light special effect, like there's some sort of energy discharge as the pipe hits the guy, and like there's like an energy pulse off of that thing.
It just absolutely ruined this man. He just goes down like a sack of bricks. It's really well shot. It's this quick, tight, kinetic little fight scene. And the stunt guys were just going ham trying to hit each other. And they just get this one great shot of the impact where the dude just flies back. It looks like he got hit by a freight train. And then Trip looks like he's gonna go with his space pipe. He's just gonna like bum rush the other three guys. Like, I'm on a kill streak. And this next one, I'm gonna have an invulnerability moment, and I'm gonna be able to combo my hits like I'm playing fucking Arkham Asylum or something. Like, you ain't getting me. But instead, he decides to go ahead and play environmental hazard, turn on his very shocky warp core to keep them from being able to move around until one of them can be shot by Reed as he walks in.
Solid move, and very Chekhov gun, because as the engine was malfunctioning initially, it was throwing off all sorts of nasty electricity bolts. So I thought it was cool that he did intentionally turn it on to trap those guys.
And one last note, I really like that they're using stun grenades and trying to get the guys who are stealing the warheads because they didn't want to shoot any of the torpedoes.
See, I thought he was trying to go for the environmental kill on that and use a stun grenade to set the torpedo off and kill him, but I guess your way makes more sense. I like the Mako troops, as they are participating in the counteroffensive, have their fucking backpacks on.
Yes.
I don't know what's in these backpacks that they need to have them on for close quarter combat, but
are you Space Marines from 40K? Are you got like armor suits on? Like, what is this?
part of me wanted to criticize Archer and be like, you knew that there were like raiding boarding parties. Like, why not just keep the ship at tactical alert and have dudes with guns stationed out there? But then I realized I didn't even think of that myself until they were actually being attacked. So good on the writers for having a plausible situation. I mean, maybe this will be a nice live and learn.
Once they're done getting raided and they get most of their shit stolen, there's a quick scene in sickbay. Phlox is tending to the wounded. It is serious, and this is where we find out that crewman Fuller is our first casualty. Which Archer,
That's got to be Brian Fuller, right?
That's got to be a reference to him, absolutely.
Is he involved with Star Trek at this point, or is this like a fuck you, you're dead to us?
No, I'm pretty sure he bounced after Voyager to do other shows.
Yeah, he couldn't get through season 1 of Enterprise either.
So Fuller's dead. Archer finds out from Phlox that the species responsible called the Osarians, who are not from the Expanse,
And
which
they're
is
also
like,
not sorry.
and the one that they have captured that was shot by Reed, they have in their new Brig set, which we'll see shortly.
So the brig, jumping back to, gosh, what was it?
Very early on, we did a whole put them in the airlock because they had no other place to put them.
What?
Was it when they
Precious
captured?
cargo?
No, did they capture one of the Suliban? God,
No, I don't
one of
think it
our
was a
fans will have to
Suliban.
remind us. They captured somebody, and I remember we had the conversation where I thought there was a brig set on the show, and someone pointed out, yeah, they do, but it's not until season 3. They don't build it till then.
Well, Memory Alpha says that was part of the refit. That there was not a brig previously as part of the Enterprise build out,
Gave
and
them a
that
prison as a treat. It's nice of them before they
mhm.
left. Yeah.
We're all about mankind and good of will, and we come in peace and all that, but here's a brig, and we also put another transporter in that's still miscalibrated, so if you need to send people to 12-second hell,
We
that's
can
their
just keep
job.
rotating you through that over and over and over again. And it only takes a few seconds from our end, so
Mhm.
not a lot of pain happening on our part. Really just on yours.
Yeah.
We have a shitty transporter. How many times do you want to go through it? Like
We're
that
gonna
should be the
be
threat.
listen, you got three options. One, you tell me what I want to know. Two, I put you through the 12-second hell transporter. Or three, we're gonna put you in the normal transporter. We're gonna beam you up and down on a densely foliated planet below. So you might come back with some leaves and rocks in your face.
We're just gonna leave it up to chance.
You pick your poison, buddy.
Let's go talk to this guy who's just like the most stage actory extra dude you can call to play in this sort of thing. I love these guys on Star Trek. I've always loved these bit actors that play the alien that are just going for it, right? Because they're gonna throw this on their reel. They want to go real big in their scene that they've got on this network television show. And so this guy is so much a fucking cartoon of a bad guy. Like, he tells a story of woe of how his people used to be traitors and they got caught in the Delphic Expanse and those clouds you pass through season 2, they don't let you back out. So you get stuck here and then you go
Which is
desperate.
not part of Suval's warning,
No.
right? All of his tales, the Klingons that came back inside out, community theater, Event Horizon, Vulcan science vessel. This is a new layer of it that, by the way, you might just never escape this bitch. So there's some really interesting Voyager retread happening here concerning Flight, which was the space pirates stole all our shit and we got to go get it back with the help of John Rhys Davies. But more enjoyably, the Void, which you had a variety of species getting stuck in a little pocket realm where they couldn't escape, and they were just robbing each other blind over and over again. And every time someone new would come in, they'd pounce on them.
Yeah, and like then Janeway had to like put together a little alliance to get everyone out of there
Mm-hmm.
and do some Federation building.
And then
Um,
not help the other people get out so they could continue to victimize other people. That was a shitty one for her.
Go on.
Yeah, good
It's a
episode.
reminder, like, she kind of sucked, didn't she? She's kind of a
Very
monster.
frequently, she was a fucking monster. you know, uh, so there's this free app on all the smart TVs and everything else. It's called Pluto TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting service. I watched a lot of Bond movies on it.
I love it. It's got commercials, which for whatever reason my wife is very partial, just background noise. And also when commercials are on, I feel like I'm not indebted to actually watch anything because as soon as the commercials are on, I'm like, well, enough of that. I'm moving on with life. But they've got two Star Trek channels. And the one is usually showing, because it's a Paramount property, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is always showing original series, but then the other Star Trek channel, which is called More Star Trek, is just running Voyager all the time. So occasionally flipping this thing on, playing a game with myself where like, how long does it take for me to now that I've seen every episode of Voyager and I've talked at least minimum 1 hour about every episode of Voyager, how long does it take for me to recognize an episode or which episode it is?
Right? Like, okay, wait, I've seen this. Which is it? What season is it? Season's got to be difficult sometimes.
No, just episode. That's all I care about. Because the Pluto TV is so fucking basic, it won't even show what goddamn episode's playing. But man, they had the one on the last time I played or watched. It was the one where was it either season 5 or season 6 finale where what's his face is like, oh hey, I've got the Slipstream Federation ship to get you all home, and
Oh, that's episode four's finale because that is the Arcturus.
yes, so
Arcturus
good.
was yes, because that's the finale of the season that the Borg show up because links all the way back to the beginning of like your actions in Scorpion Part 2 were just monstrous to the
Inhuman.
entire Delta Quadrant. So I'm going to murder you and your entire crew by sending you into the jaws of the very enemy you chose not to allow to fucking die.
Don't blame him. He's not
Yeah,
wrong.
it's not wrong. Arcturus was right. That's what we learned.
Great episode.
But I do forget the name of the I can tell you everything about it. That it's Ray Wise, that he's like a super translator, like that they
He's got a
find the
big
thing.
shaved scrotum for a head.
This is when B'Elanna, no, the actress was pregnant, but
Yeah,
B'Elanna was not. So that was in that era where she was wearing like the
the
engineering
lab
jacket
coat. Yeah.
to hide that she was pregnant IRL.
You
Oh
think they're
man.
gonna let Jolene Blaylock get away with that?
No. No, I think Jolene
Right there in
Blaylock
her contract, you cannot be pregnant.
just, it wouldn't actually it would not surprise
Absolutely.
me. It would not surprise me at
Absolute
all.
Rick Berman, come on. We made
Well, it
that
is interesting
mistake.
that wasn't probably not in Roxanne Dawson's contract. I guess they felt like they could work around it, and so they just didn't.
Yeah. Until they saw that she had done all the push-ups, and they're like, okay, maybe you're going to be
Well,
a sex symbol after. Again, Voyager as a
wheel her back
whole
out.
started off as we're not doing boobies. Here's Janeway, here's B'Elanna, here's Kess. There's no clear sex symbol here, and we're going to respect these ladies in the feminine voice.
And
And then
they did a little bit with Janeway at the beginning of like having some of her in her like nightgown or her
I'm sorry, I
bodice
take that back.
ripper.
It wasn't that one with Ray Wise wasn't the last one. It was the second last one because the last one was fucking Eye of a Needle, and I watched the scene with her talking to the Romulan captain. And I'm just like, God damn, this is good.
Yeah. That was a real early one too. That was like
Maybe
first
Pluto
5
TV only
seasons.
plays the great stuff.
Maybe it knows like you never see Twisted or Elogium on that. Like those don't show up. Like Virtuoso, not in the rotation.
Space Cougar Planet was in there. I watched Harry hit that lady over the head with the fucking chair and try and kill her. I
Let's
love
go
Harry Kim as a fucking murderer. Anyway, so
back
back
to
to
this very grim
murderers.
show. Back to a very grim show. It's very dark. Terrible things are happening. So
So he
you've got
goes
those.
in, and this guy, he's not just an ugly Mad Max alien. This guy is clearly deformed. And it's
Yeah.
like, why does this guy look like his face is a piece of bologna that has been hooked and stretched 3 inches to the left? Kind of looks like the insurrection bad guys, right?
Yeah, the Sona.
So this isn't someone else's face has necessarily been put over mine, but my face has been stretched the wrong way to the side. And Archer goes in and he's very salty because Fuller is dead and he has been robbed. And that's, well, maybe not having a dead crew member as well, but, we've all been robbed at some point. It's a shitty feeling, especially when you're there on this mission. And that's been greatly endangered. Also, all your fucking guns are gone. Hey,
Guns
buddy.
and fuel. They like don't have a
And
choice but
food.
to fucking yeah. They can have a choice but to fucking find these guys. Like mission fail if they don't, so they've got to track down their stuff. And this guy, he talks a big game, and then basically calls Archer out as like you're too civilized to torture me. And then this is where we get a hint, probably of where we're headed, which is yeah, you're right. I'm gonna feel bad about hurting you. But if I can just deal with the remorse of doing bad things. Like I know that I'm not like a monstrous killer. I will kill you and I'll feel bad about it. It's what he tells this guy.
It's a little paint by numbers, and trotting out bad boy Archer feels a little trite, but again, I can understand the writer's room acknowledging the fact that Archer is a weak point of the show and needing to fix him somehow. So that's the framework for it's business time Archer.
And if perhaps instead of having this come out in his direct conversation with this guy, but instead Trip egging him into this position because we know Trip is the one who's the hardest in the paint to fucking kill these guys. And if he says, Captain, you just got to get in there and yeah, we might feel bad about some of the things we've done. I'm ready to live with some remorse. Are you? And, like that instigates him to be like, okay, my murder friend has a point.
Trip would really be a good.
Kind of is Archer's confidant. They're like boys, you know?
Yeah, and I mean
He's the
that's
boss, but they're boys.
Archer had a couple confidants so far: Phlox, T'Pol, and Trip. I like the idea of Trip being the devil on his shoulder, enabling and encouraging poor behavior. And then, of course, there'd have to be the resolution at the end where Archer finally pulls himself off the verge of darkness and then has to turn around and grab Trip and pull him out as well, as they both like remoralize or whatever.
Right.
But this dude, I don't know if they even give him a name, captive guy, he says, you guys are soft. You clearly don't know what the fuck's going on here. You don't know what it's like having to live here. We used to be like you. We used to be civilized. We got stuck here. Shit's bad. It's dangerous. These anomalies, they don't just fuck your ship up. If you're standing in the wrong place at the wrong time, they'll fuck you up too. And he points to his face, showing that like space anomaly ripped the fucking skin off his face and scarred him up as bad as it did, which super cool sci-fi stuff there.
Very true.
He cartoon like I don't know if it's Captain Planet levels, but like this guy like Looney Tunes drops some information for free and is like, you don't even have your ship coded in Trellium D, which is what stops the insulation that stops these anomalies. And you jump back to the last episode or season 3 episode 1 where they go to the mining colony. Trellium D is what the super spaced asbestos that slave colony was mining. So makes sense. And part of me was like, why didn't they try to market some Trellium D at Enterprise and be like, hey, you should buy this shit off us? It's like, oh well, if you're just gonna enslave everybody
Yeah, I
anyway,
was going to
like
say,
why,
they didn't try and sell them anything because they were going to take
why
their
bother with
shit.
a pitch on that?
Yeah, like, oh, new workers and technology. Got it. They do start being able to track the pirates by tracing their ion trails, and they have that because
As it goes, courtesy of their old friends.
courtesy of the derelict ship that had figured it out, but then unfortunately expired before they could put their plan into action. They can trace them, and they follow them basically to a gap in space where one trail ends and another one begins, but days later. And they're like, well, if we go into this area where there's apparently some sort of void, we might find something interesting.
Cool shit.
They pass through a barrier of some kind that fucks the ship up a little bit, but when they emerge through the barrier, they find a giant sphere, a big metal. What in the HR Geiger is this shit's metal sphere with some shit inside it? I'm like,
Not
yeah,
quite a
this is
Dyson sphere,
yeah,
but
just something.
that's no moon. They got themselves a little. It's not a Death Star. It's like a Power Star. Cool sci-fi shit.
It is
And
a weirdo
unfortunately,
unknown thing to find in a weirdo unknown part of space.
which is what all of season 1 and 2 should have been. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, goes back to, has Enterprise been a show that is a sci-fi television program or an action television program set in space? The metal sphere with its little door, its 12 fission power plants, the weird house of stairs platforms connecting inside, like really neat stuff that I found myself actually looking to Archer and be like, what's this guy's reaction? Because season 1 and season 2 Archer would be like, wow, this is amazing. Let's study it. And you would have had that explorer vibe. And it was very interesting to see Archer encounter this and not give a single shit about any of it. And that caused disconnect for me, where part of me wanted to be like, I had to watch season 1 and season 2. This shit's already there. You have to have some sort of connection to this old. Like, I get you're distancing yourself, but it still happened. Make it worth it. Give me that line of dialogue where he says, to 12, how many weeks has it been since the attack?
It took a month to get out to the expanse, and it's been weeks since they entered it.
Let's say 6. Wow.
Yeah.
6 months ago, this sphere would have been my wildest dream. The sphere would have been the biggest thing I had ever seen, or just this would have been monumental. And today, I could care less about it. Just
They even had a scene to do that in, because they have that moment where T'Pol comes in with scans of the thing, and he's like mildly interested and says, "Scan it some more." Right there, you could have done those lines that you're talking about. Right there, and
yeah,
like,
and that's what
just,
I was flabbergasted they did.
yeah.
You've got T'Pol. I was like, okay, here comes the confidant scene where we're going to see Archer have to acknowledge the person he used to be, or
Our mission has changed. We can't indulge in exploration anymore. As interesting
yeah,
as
have him
this is
fall into the old route
fascinating.
and stop. We can't right now. We can't. So, anyways, this big star, whatever the fuck it is, it's got a little hatch that, sure enough, Enterprise can't fit in. But you know what? I bet you the shuttle can. So they load up the old away team with some Mako soldiers, and they float on over. And there's a little locking mechanism computer. They can't hack it, so they pull a Star Wars on it and they shoot it.
Shoot the door.
No, they
Opens the
shoot
door.
the computer next to the door,
Yeah.
and it opens up.
The inside of this thing is very clearly alien and advanced, and it's like you are treading in the footsteps of giants, right? Like, whatever this is, it's well beyond whatever we are, right? And what we find is that these space pirates basically built a little shanty town within this thing that it's not supposed to be there. These are some structures they've brought in and are maintaining within this impromptu fortress they've created for themselves by using this, I don't know, predecessor technology. It's obviously no context for this in the story at the moment, to hide themselves, which is quite ingenious. That
How
is
cool if it
very.
would have been Hirogen.
Oh, that this if this was some sort of like Hirogen network node or something.
That would have
I
been
mean,
badass.
they can extend into the Alpha Quadrant, and we know this from Voyager, but I guess they felt like they just really wanted to be able to do whatever they wanted.
I'd still love to see. No, I wouldn't, because Star Trek's always shit at doing this. But like the map of the far reaches and getting out to the Delphic Expanse, like how deep into Federation territory that really is.
The the I mean, as you kind of are saying, there are people who have attempted to approximate those
It's
maps.
impossible. It's all fucking nonsense.
Yeah, because until they never had a series Bible on celestial navigation. They never ironed it out until they had done all of these things and said all of these things that couldn't all possibly be true. And so different people take a shot at like trying to construct what does the galaxy possibly look like based on all of these descriptions we've received about what is near what. And you do get some interesting maps out of that, but none of them strike me as like the truth. You know what I mean? The
But like,
Federation's always too fucking big.
pre TOS Warp 5, several weeks of travel or months of travel at pre TOS Warp 5 to like 24th century, like
Warp
fucking
9, yeah.
what a nebula could have. The distance would be like me driving up to the fucking United Dairy Farmers at the end of my street. Like that whole thing's just in their backyard, basically. So they fly and they get into this little pirate stronghold. They start rooting around. Everybody's on edge. They're all creeping around. How do you feel about Reed's gun control in this episode?
I mean, it was a little bit better.
I, his pinky's
It,
not flared out. I'm like,
yeah,
all right, well, someone gave him a note.
yeah, someone's like, hold the gun in your whole hand.
Yeah.
don't act like you're at tea time. All right, like hold the whole gun. And he holds it more like a professional and holds it in both hands, like he's going to control it like a real weapon. Maybe being around these actors who are doing the right thing with the rifles and they're like checking corners and stuff, probably because they get cast in military shit a lot. So because of that, they know like the basics of what a military guy does as you're entering the door and all of that. They've done the
They're
active
cutting the
boot camp.
pie, sure, yeah.
The consultants have like run them through what the stuff looks like. So they're just using that training, and then they're like, the guy playing Reed
Maybe
sees
the
them doing
consultant
that.
just went up to Reed and was like, hold the gun like you don't want someone to come slap it out of your hand.
Hold it like it's a deadly weapon. You have to be prepared to implement like a serious thing instead of like with your fucking pinky out, you fucking British weirdo.
So they find all their old shit. I like while they're rooting around, they find this big nasty tub, and the guy's like, oh, they call them stem bolts or something.
Yeah. Don't see
Instantly,
it.
as soon as I see it, I was like, that's that shit Senator Kelly was fucking hauling.
It was.
And it was. I saw it in Memory Alpha. I was like, well, good on me for recognizing ratty old reuse props. Usually it's just the cool stuff I recognize. They steal what I understand is only their own stuff back.
Correct.
Very big of them.
They also get the cargo manifest, which becomes very important because as they get all of their stuff back, Hoshi starts decoding that and finds out that this cargo manifest contains an item, and it contains several items that have come from a Zindi ship. And of course, that means these pirates have encountered Zindi ships. So they know what Zendis look like. Maybe they know where they live. Maybe there's something, maybe they left the ship somewhere. So with that information in hand, that suddenly this weird side quest that they're on to deal with piracy might actually be their best lead towards actual factual living Zindi that they can do something with or to or follow or investigate. Archer goes back to the brig and decides to reacquaint himself with his overacting friend.
I noticed that Hoshi is no longer the communications officer so much as hacker girl.
Yeah, they've turned her into sort of like the cryptographer, which
Yeah.
makes sense for a linguist because IRL linguists often are.
But like later in the episode where they're hacking the enemy ship to download their database, and you know what, if it gets her more screen time, I'm down.
We need a hacker. Do we have an Asian character? Guess what?
They need to like do her makeup up like Angelina Jolie in Hackers, where she's got like this elven pixie cut and like wild eyeshadow.
Tons of times of eyeliner and eyeshadow.
Give me it. I like it.
I went to Tripp's movie night and there was something from the 90s and it really stuck with me.
Is Hackers part of the Paramount catalog? So yeah, Archer goes, oh, there's Zindi involved in this. So he goes back and watches The Dark Knight real quick, the Batman Joker scenes. And,
where's Rachel?
Where's Zindi at?
Where's Rachel?
Where's Cindy? No, Zindi! Xindi. I'm not playing around with you anymore. We're gonna go back to the Janeway of doing things. I'm gonna put a phaser to your head. We're gonna suck all the air out of the room, and we'll see what happens. So he starts getting rough with this guy. He's got a phaser. Oh, Captain, I don't think you have it in you to be that much of a brute. Well, little do you know, I'm season 3 Archer. I don't brush my hair forward anymore. I brush my hair down. And he drags him out and fucking
takes that renegade option. Which one, A or B, boys?
I was never. Yeah, Archer's never had the Mass Effect Paragon and Renegade option. It's always been petulant bitch or Renegade, and it's an easy choice to make in this one for him. Of course, Reed comes sniveling, "Sir, you're hurting him." Archer don't care. Archer drags the guy off, throws him in the airlock, sets the airlock to start decompressing, to call Space Pirates bluff.
breaks his will by putting him into asphyxiation and making him confirm multiple times he was ready to talk, and then lets
Yeah,
him
that
out
was
at
the
the last
best
second.
part. The
Yeah,
guy's like,
like
all right, I'm good. He's like, you sure? You sure? How about now? You sure? That's evil.
I mean, it's I get it. It's an interrogation technique, right? Like
Mhm.
you got to make sure the guy's going to give you everything, right? Like you've tapped the well deep. You can't fuck around. You can't make him think you turned back at the first opportunity. You make him sit with his mortality for a few more seconds, and you're like, okay, now you get out. Now that you've had a few more dark moments to consider the abyss, what would you like to tell me?
Mm.
And sure enough, it's everything. It's the access codes. It's to the computer.
Yeah, it's here's how the cloak works.
Yeah.
Also, here's the master control fucking code for the ship, which why my captain entrusts that to anybody is fucking beyond me.
I mean, they straight torture the guy and it works. I mean, it's just quite a message.
I know, but
It's,
like, why would you, as the captain, give your fucking expendable underlings the magic codes to fuck you over? Uh, it doesn't make sense,
if
but
only they said like he was the XO or something like that.
sure.
You know, forgot to leave how like why this guy knows this, but sure enough, he seems to. And
That's the
they're like,
crazy part about this guy too. Is Archer goes in there. Like, I get not wanting to rat your own ship out because you're in this lose-lose position here, right? You've been captured. Clearly, you're expendable. And he even says so much as, "I'm not going to tell you how to find my ship because even if I tell you how, you're going to kill me, or if you give me back to my captain, he's not going to be very happy that I led him directly to you and cause this problem. So they'll probably just kill me too." I get him being loyal out of necessity to that. But when Archer goes in there and starts yelling about the Zindi, like, why make your life on Enterprise uncomfortable over some fucking marks you ripped off? I think he would have just sung. This guy was needlessly dickish towards
yeah,
Archer on that
just
end.
cartoonish. Just really had to be the worst guy because I felt like I think they felt like they had to do that because that was how they sold making Archer's heel turn into torturing him okay. If he was like semi reasonable, you couldn't have tortured him. But this
And
is post 9/11 gritty reboot. They want to torture his ass.
here it is. Make this guy your Neelix. Make him somewhat likable. Keep the scarred face if you want to.
Yeah.
But
Make him the ship's cook and he's over there and he's like befuddled. He's not
by the
very
end of it,
aggressive.
Archer goes, all right, well, we got what we want, and I can give you back to your captain. No, this guy is going to fucking kill me. Or Archer can be like, you know what, you cost me a crew member. I'm one man down now, and you're going to replace him because if I give you back to your captain, he's going to kill you. You're familiar with the area, and maybe
Yeah.
have him been a little bit cooperative on the Zindi or something else. And that was always my big gripe with Voyager was they'd come across all these great guest actors and none of them ever joined the ship. At least none of the ones I ever really wanted. Shout out Dr. Pell, ever joined the ship. You know, we got Neelix and Kess up front, and then we picked up the ex Borg, but there were so many other good ones that would have just been great to have along. I think this guy would have been some very welcome cast, especially since you've made it clear to us at this point that Mayweather, Hoshi, more or less Reed, maybe fly like your quote unquote starring cast has all been relegated to background. You're bringing these Mako dudes in, bring a third alien on board.
Yeah. Why not? Now's the time, right? Like you're going into the hard reset.
You
Having an
want a
alien
gritty
guide.
dark element?
Yeah.
Here, bring a fucking space pirate in that's gonna have that fucking kill. He could be like a dirty buddy with Reed, like, yeah, kill these guys, fuck them.
I
Let's
mean,
take their stuff.
I think there's a real line. You make him sort of a junior member of the crew or kind of like an unwilling participant, semi-unwilling participant, somebody who really wasn't into the pirate life but was part of the crew by some means or motive that wasn't entirely his own. And so he gives this opportunity to be like part of something else and work off this debt of like having been part of this act of violence against this crew.
Especially as they started off as space merchants. This guy should have been more open to negotiations, more opening to bartering, and like exactly what you said. I never wanted to be a space pirate. It was out of necessity. This is a better opportunity. It's very Neelix-ish in retread, but hey, by the end, I love Neelix. He's my favorite. So
I just think they didn't want to have space for that because they just wanted this to be the gritty reboot. You know, like no one can be trusted in this part of space. Everyone is terrible. Fuck them.
big miss. Uh, all right.
What is not a miss are the torpedoes because the NX-01 just waits for these guys to show back up, and they
How are we going to
do.
find them? We don't need to find them. We're sitting
Yeah,
next to the fucking dragon's horde, man. They're going to
yeah.
come back here, and we're going to fucking bust them over the head with a chair.
You ever, you ever play DayZ? You're going back to the fort. We're here. Like we got them.
Mm-hmm.
So sure enough, they show up, and Reed is Johnny on the spot, lays down some fire, and Enterprise has clearly got these guys outgunned, but they're not trying to blow them up. They're trying to hack their ship. So we get a whole sequence where trying to get close enough and stay close enough to download the database. They go into the field to try and shake them off. So Enterprise goes back and purposefully starts fucking with the stash so that it forces the pirates' hands to come in and just make a run at them. And that allows Hoshi to finish downloading the database. And then Archer's like, oh, good, finally, destroy them. Like, just blow them out of the water. I don't care anymore. And winds up disabling their engine and making them crash land, I guess, on the
Well, they
sphere.
bounce off. They fly off injured.
And I guess like they just declare a unilateral ceasefire and say, we've actually come what we came for and we took all of our shit back. So we're going to hand you your guy back and we're going to leave. And if you ever bother us again, we're going to kill you. We don't see that conversation, but I kind of presume it happened.
Sure.
You know, like we're done. We're not murderers, so we have no interest in finishing you off. Just never bother us again.
Some real shades of Janeway dickishness here. Like, these guys are a predatory nuisance who have victimized everybody they've come across, and I wouldn't have blamed them for just destroying their ship or blowing up their stash and being like, fuck you, like, here's
That's
two
what the
middle
pirate
fingers.
overactor basically says. Like, how you're showing us mercy. Oh, that's stupid. You know, like he's even being told by the plot, like, this
We're
is a
just going to
terrible
keep,
idea.
I mean, I'm not. They're going to fucking kill me because you're not giving me a reasonable offer to stay on your ship and be your pirate guide. But yeah, my buddies, they're going to keep just fucking raping and pillaging because that's what we've accustomed to. And that's another, again, back to the beginning. My criticism here is that they try to make these guys out to be real Mad Max, live and let die bad guys, but then they do this raid on a ship and they're sloppily knocking people out instead of just murdering everybody they come across as well as stealing. So like,
It's a tiny bit of a mismatch. Like, either make them more reluctant to be pirates, and that's why they're not killing people. And so you empathize a little bit with them, and then it gets a little bit more gray area about what's going on, or make them bloodthirsty. And so they're really the bad guys. And that means they should be murdering everyone they get their hands on.
absolutely. If there
Pick
was that
one.
hesitation throughout all of the pirates' actions, then give Archer that ability at the end to say, I've got you on your knees and I can do the area of a favor and kill you, or I can show mercy. And I still see, I see we could become you, and I'm going to recognize the need to walk a higher path,
Yeah.
and
Very Star
that's why
Trek.
I'm not going to kill you. Uh, but making them this, well, some of us knock people out, but others go in with their guns set to kill. It, it's a disconnect. It's bad. They take him out. Archer puts captive guy back on a shuttle, flies him, dumps him off in, the pirate bay. And then Archer has this real solid Mass Effect ending where he walks into the command center as it's flashing the Xindi archives or whatever the fuck he has, and the projections are going over his face, and you've got this heavy synth music going, again straight out of like Mass Effect 1,
Oh yeah,
as it's this.
it's a little synth guitar right before that scene too. It was very noticeable, and the lighting. We didn't talk much about it. The lighting in the whole episode is so much lower. It's much more dramatic. It's
Tense.
better lit because of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
a little darkness goes a long way. People talk shit about it in Picard a lot, but it is a little too dark. But dark helps make light useful. When things are overlit, then light doesn't do anything for you. You have to turn it down so that you can use it in ways that enhance your cinematography. This is an art that has been slowly unlocked, I think, by a lot of creators at every level of budget and creation. And finally, here we are in Star Trek, and they discovered,
20
yes,
years ago. Yeah.
let's do some light. Let's do some light stuff. That's probably a very good idea on our part, but it
Imagine
really
coming
works.
back, they're sending you off to go save Earth, and you're like, I thought you guys were retrofitting the ship. All you did was like take out every other light bulb. I can't fucking.
I can't see.
The
I'm
fuck?
running into
You
fucking
guys are
walls and
saving
shit.
so much energy, though. We've cut your electricity bill in half.
Overall, I really really like this episode. I feel like we were kind of negative ish on some elements, some nitpicky stuff because it was really close to being great, and it just made a few missteps. Like it just quite wasn't right in a couple spots, but overall, I love the tone. The action was actually very well executed in this episode. It's giving you a real sense of urgency with its plot, and it gripping. Is a gripping and thrilling watch. And I can't say that about practically anything from the first two fucking seasons. So it's such a nice change. But straight up having Ensign or Corporal Mackenzie without a bra.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that. I can't believe I missed boobies to the degree you seem to be expressing here.
I am stunned into silence that you did not notice. You of all people.
I am not as keen on this one as you were. Again, I think there's too much retread going on from concerning flight, and which a space we got robbed. That shouldn't be a rare thing to happen.
It feels
Um,
so much more different, though. I'll say
it
that.
does, but they're due to be robbed and not recover everything. I think had some resources really been lost, but every time the Enterprise or a hero ship gets robbed, they always get their ship back, and I'm tired of it. The fact that the Xindi get involved in this becomes the real star of this show and turns what I think would have otherwise been kind of a pointless and not dragging, but just a pointless filler episode, and turns it into a good part of the meta plot.
What are we watching next week, Peter?
Season 3, episode 3, we're getting into Extinction. This one's written by Andre Baramis. Uh-oh. Get out the fucking Two-Face quarter. It's LeVar Burton.
I have a very bad.
Is this going to be great,
I-
or is this going to be awful? Archer, Reed, and Sato are threatened by a virus that mutates them into primal life forms.
This is one of the most dog shit episodes of Star Trek ever.
Yeah, as I said, LeVar Burton.
And this one shows up just in time to remind you this is still Enterprise, and greatness will not always be the formula.
Why is it
This is
always
real.
LeVar? Like, are they just trying to tell him to fuck off without actually telling him to fuck off, and they just give him bad episodes to try and run him out? These the crew devolves episodes. Obviously, the Star Trek one, the Next Gen one was fucking amazing, right?
Yeah, it was.
And I guess the closest Voyager really got was, what was the one with the fucking Pac-Mans floating around?
Pac-Mans.
Where Janeway goes all Ripley.
Macro, or because macroism, yes.
So maybe there's not really that many we devolve into monsters, but
I guess you could count Rascals.
That was a bad one. That was a bad one.
Yeah, I think so great either. And we'll be reviewing it together next week. Thanks, everybody. See you then.